27 seconds plus Joey Daccord trade. All that coming up on today's episode of Locked On Kraken.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what do you say, Seattle hockey fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we bring you your favorite team, the Seattle Kraken, every single day. Erica L. Ayala here. I apologize if you hear any echo. I'm in a different room today. Brutal. We'll talk about all the things. Gosh. My manifestations, my affirmations, apparently I needed at least 27 more seconds, 30, maybe let's say 32 more seconds just to be, just to be good. This is a brutal loss. And it's brutal because I'm of multiple opinions regarding the loss. 2-1 in regulation to the Winnipeg Jets. Your goaltender, Joey Daccord, 34 of 36 saves. Connor Hellebuyck, just an absolute G, 18 of 19, 18 saves on 19 shots, I should say. Goals saved above average, 0.4 for Daccord, 0.7 for Hellebuyck. Both get a quality start. The Seattle Kraken did a lot of the things that we talked about on the last episode, that I talked about on the last episode. Getting Joey Daccord activated, starting early. The second and the third period, though, we'll hear from Kaapo Kakko in a minute, just could not keep the intensity, the energy up effectively, or a little worn down by this Winnipeg Jets team. And that, in addition to, if this loss had come earlier in the season, if it had come at a time where the Seattle Kraken are still either in playoff position or much closer to being in playoff position, maybe I'd feel differently about this one, but this one hurts. It hurts really, really bad. And I know I'm not alone. So I thought what we heard from Matty Beniers and Kaapo Kakko was very illuminating in a lot of ways. So let's hear from Kaapo Kakko first.
Kaapo, tough one here at the end. How'd you think you guys played?
I think good start. First period was pretty good. Get the lead. Then second one, I think they got a little better. We played a lot in D zone. Still not too bad. I think we did good things. And then third one, I can see we kind of get a little tired. They played a lot in our zone, got more chances than us. I think we got all the chances also. Like it was 1-1 almost the whole game, so tight game, but just bad ending.
So you're 13 games in. You're obviously feeling pretty good about your line mates and the way you've been playing.
Yeah, pretty good. I think we, especially first period, spent a lot of time in the O-zone. Those plays I like to make play down low. I think that's the game we need to play, and it's been feeling pretty good lately.
What were you proud of defensively in this one to be able to keep this game 1-1 for most of it? Against the best team in the league.
Yeah, like I said, we played pretty good. I think, especially the first period. Then you can see in the end, I think we get a little tired, and it's a pretty good team we're playing against, and so they got a lot of chances in the end, I think. But I think we still block a lot of shots, did right things in the D zone. Still a couple pretty good chances for them, but that's gonna happen against teams like that. So I think there was a lot of good things. Only a couple goals for them. Joey played pretty good game, just 2 goals. So I think there's a lot of good things, but still tough one.
My biggest takeaway from what Capo was saying is, again, the Seattle Kraken team couldn't keep up with the Winnipeg Jets. They tried. It was a valiant effort, but it fell short. I've talked on this show before for the everydayers and OGers. There were times where the conditioning of this team just felt like we couldn't outlast anyone. We couldn't absorb the contact. We couldn't go fast. I don't think overall that's been the issue. If you listen to the show regularly, that I really liked the conditioning that we saw in preseason, but specifically in training camp. I think there are things that happen in practice that try to replicate that. So conditioning or being like fit enough, your lungs open enough for a hockey game, not really the issue, but we knew this was going to be a heavy hockey game. We knew this was going to be a game where the Seattle Kraken really had to win some of those puck battles. And I will say they did much better with the puck battle win per Allison Lucan's instant analysis. They still were, they didn't win the puck battle percentage, but 56% to 44, much better than the last time I talked to you about puck battle stats. It just wears on this team because as we talk about their inconsistency, as we talk about some of the things that this team isn't doing, they're not used to having to work that hard, ? We have a few outliers, but this team as a group isn't putting in that workload on a consistent basis. So I feel like at least some of what we saw and what Capo, you just heard from him, the fatigue factor or getting tired, outworked a little, is because the thing about muscles is you have to keep moving them, you have to keep exercising them, and the Seattle Kraken have not done that with consistency. And that kind of leads me to wanting to talk about what we heard from Matty Beniers, because there are things we absolutely want to take away from this game. And in the bigger picture, this game wasn't good enough. It just wasn't good enough. So how does Matty Beniers and the rest of the team move forward? We'll talk about that coming up on today's episode of Locked On Kraken. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Now, we know the NFL playoffs are right here, and from the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets. $300. If you win your first bet, that's $300. So keep the action going. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL and us here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Hey, thanks as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. Erica L. Ayala here, somewhere near Miami. Well, I'm in Miami, near Miami Beach, I should say. Anyway, if you want to cover my women's basketball coverage, then follow Black Rosie Media. I'll also be writing a detailed story for CBS Sports. But the Women's Hockey Report will be back tomorrow morning, Saturday, ahead of an exciting slate of games. And if you like goaltending, you might want to check that one out. Oops, I just left the FanDuel ad up there. You got some extra time there, FanDuel, extra screen time. Good, but not great. Let's hear from Matty Beniers. I thought he had some great takeaways because the Seattle Kraken are coming back home. They need to glean out some things from this game, including the quote-unquote reward that you get when you play a certain way.
Matty, obviously a tough one here tonight. Kind of not deserved by Joey, but what do you think of the team's effort, especially Joey?
I thought it was a good team effort. I felt like we played a full 60. which is good. We got to build off that. Even when they had their chances in the second, they got good pressure, and I thought we did a good job coming back, getting pucks down there, getting some ozone time in the third. So, it's, I thought it was a good effort. We're going to try to build off that. It's obviously not the outcome we wanted, but yeah.
And for me, what Matty said about there are things that we can take away, he was kind of asked, no moral victories, yada, yada, yada. I mean, we've been talking, how many times have we heard someone from the Kraken organization say, I know there's no moral victories. For those not watching on video, I'm just kind of rubbing my eyes because it's so frustrating on so many levels. Anyway, I digress. Matty knows there were good things in this game. Matty knows that it's not a matter of feeling good about, well, we accomplished something. It's more about how I took his comments, is that we can do this. We're not doing it, but we can do this. So now we need to latch on. Great song by Disclosure and Sam Smith. We need to latch on, like our season depends on it, to the things that worked well. And the Matty Beniers line is a part of that. The Matty Beniers line, per Allison Lucan, once again, the best line on the ice. They were the only line to score. First of all, a lot of people are going to talk about the Jaden Schwartz pass. I talked about passing, and I feel like it's been a little meh, a little mid at times. The alley-oop, but then how Capo had the timing, the wherewithal, and the skill set to, if you watch the replay, not only does he bring his stick down, but if anyone's tried to catch something, but especially in hockey, you know that it's not only the timing of when you try to essentially catch the puck, but the velocity that, like, there's so many things in hockey especially, but you see him kind of follow it and then poof, drop his stick at the last second. Like, I was a baseball player / softball player. So I used to kind of Willie Mays catch the ball like that. Oh my God. It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Starts with a good breakout, starts with a good play by Schwartzy, bringing up the wall, chips it, over the two Ds. The defenseman's head. Capo corrals it and makes an awesome backhand sauce pass to me. So, great players by those two, and they're playing awesome.
It was beautiful, and and then Matty Beniers finishing in front of the net. You'll love to see it. It was great. It was a great play. So that was the goal. But here's what Allison Lucan says. When it came to offensive advantage, the only line on the team to end in the positive. They created 54.4% of all shot quality in their team leading 15.49 minutes of ice time. Now, Beniers got his third game opening goal, which ties him with one Chandler Stevenson. And it was his third goal in 4 periods against the Jets this season. I talked a little bit about last game against Winnipeg where we did get to overtime. I was affirming and manifesting that we would get at least 1 point. We were 27 seconds away, fam. So I feel like my auntie vibes, my energy is strong, but I got to do better. And that's what we heard from Matty Beniers. Take away what worked, cling to it. Hold on to it. Remember it. Not because you're trying to pat yourself on the back, but because we are desperate for points. We are desperate for wins. And if you got to alley-oop pass everything for the end of eternity, do it. I would imagine we're going to see more ice time for this Beniers line. If you look at the game score, Hockey Stat Cards provided this data that Allison goes over. Beniers, Kakko, Larson, Schwartz, and Dunn. Larson and Dunn, the defensive combination that helped get things going per game score. Remember, I talked about Riker Evans. I talked about, Brandon Montour. Now, there were some changes to the roster because Brandon Tanev was ill. And so, a few changes here and there that might have impacted things. But overall, pretty smart, pretty clean, very sharp, comparative to like the Detroit game. Didn't like the discipline on the penalty side of things. So the Seattle Kraken in this game, 4 penalty minutes to 2. Now that doesn't seem like a lot, but the penalties, they were costly. Mark Scheifele scored on a power play goal. I mean, it was pretty instantaneous. The PK, the special teams have to get better. Play for pride, play to really, not mess around. Got to get better there. Again, I've talked about timing. Timing is everything. The timing of those penalties, I wasn't a fan. But we can move on. Face-off dog, 58.8% for the Seattle Kraken to 41.2% for the Winnipeg Jets. 19 shots to 36 shots. You can't overstate how important Joey Daccord was for this team. And he's the best player on the team right now, which is why I'm not mad that the idea of trading Joey has come up on the interwebs. I saw it in a thread. I forgot which social media platform I was looking at, and I apologize to the fan who I saw post this because I don't remember. But my immediate reaction was heck no. And then I read some of the comments and responses, and I was like, well, should the Kraken, or will the Kraken, quote unquote, have to trade Joey Daccord, our best player, hands down right now? It's an interesting conversation, one that we'll probably get into in more detail down the road. But we're going to talk about that coming up on today's episode of Locked On Kraken. Hey there, thanks as always for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. Erica L. Ayala here. Good game, isolated, on an island, in a silo, quick snapshot, solid game, heartbreaking loss. In the context of this season, it's good, but it's not enough. And I love that Matty Beniers is like, again, my interpretation of what he said, we got to hold on to this. We got to really hold on here. And a part of the reason you want to hold on is because there are people on the interwebs saying, if the Seattle Kraken can't get it together, highest trade value that you have on this team, probably Joey Daccord. Question of the day, is there anything that you would consider moving Joey for? Like, what would it have to be? And I'm not just talking pieces like, the person who originally suggested this on social media was saying, well, we need to beef up, number 1 picks. We need to, trade for picks. Some people then commenting and saying, okay, but then that could push back your timeline. Although, again, this is now me talking. I'm not exactly sure I know what the Seattle Kraken timeline is. But if you're trading for picks, then you've given up on this season. But is it realistic to expect a team with a lot of prospects, a lot of draft picks to be better from a perspective in the standings than they are right now? I don't know. And it's a gamble. It's a risk. And sometimes that's what you have to do in sports. This particular risk, not only do I not like it because to me it signals, all right, we're throwing in the towel, tank season, all of that. Not only does it upset me because I like Joey Daccord. He's been one of our most consistent goaltenders. but there's no guarantee. Now, life doesn't give you guarantees. I know. This just seems like a lot where I'm not quite sure I understand the full vision of this team. And these pieces that we brought together this season were supposed to make this team better, and they didn't. There's something amok. There is something not connecting with this Seattle Kraken team. I don't believe personally that it is, or not exclusively, the coaching staff. Put another way, I don't think you give the coaching staff the axe. To me, there is a lot of responsibility that has fallen by the wayside when it comes to this roster. That's extremely disappointing, but I don't know that there's one individual or like a cluster of players that I would consider like a toxic or they're bad for the locker room. Without being able to really sit down and have conversations with guys that they probably wouldn't want to have on the record, if at all, I just don't get a sense for what's going on with this team. And so maybe my take on the coaching staff is wrong, and it's more of the coaching staff than the players. I think that you have to have the players be held to account in this particular situation. It's not good enough. And like Matty Beniers is asking his team to do, like Capo Caco said, hey, we didn't play tough enough. There's an understanding, there's an awareness. It's not ambiguous. So there's not an ignorance, right, to what it takes to win and how far off the team is from that. What's lacking is the will to do the work to make it so. And that's extremely frustrating. This is an NHL team. And the fact that more than once, I'm questioning the motivation, whether this team is locked in. That's frustrating. That's extremely frustrating. And if I'm right, and I could be wrong, maybe there's something else we don't know about. How many guys are dealing with an injury that they're not going to shut it down this year, but might turn out to be, I don't know. Like, I don't know. There are different scenarios. I'm not saying what I'm saying is correct, but that's my gut. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. There are things that I don't understand as far as where the front office wants to go that have to be cleaned up. We heard from Ron Francis the other day. He didn't give us much, and he's not going to in that situation. He knows that something has to happen. Something is likely going to happen come the trade deadline, but it sounds like this team is still looking to wait it out. They did that in season 2, and it, surprising to me, was successful in as much as they got to the playoffs and even won a playoff series. That to me, and Dan Bilesma in his post game said something about luck. I didn't play his clips, but he said something about, you make your own luck. Well, if that's true, Dan, I don't know that the front office is doing everything that they can do to help the Kraken make their own luck. I don't know. And I like Ronnie Francis. I really do. I just don't, there's a disconnect somewhere. And I have been one to believe that coaching was not the main issue with this team. I still don't think coaching is the main issue. Is it an ingredient? Is it a recipe? Sure. But my gut keeps telling me, and I keep just figuring out things that are directly associated with the front office. And I'm scratching my head. I don't know what's going on. That's not an excuse for what's not happening on the ice. I think it's twofold. And that's also not to say that the coaching staff, their job is literally to figure this stuff out. So they got to do it. I personally wouldn't give them the axe after just one season, but, that's me. Something's got to give. Is trading Joey the thing that I think needs to happen? No. But, how much of trades in the NHL are based on relationships, are based on obviously what's happening with the team now? And you have to make your team better. You don't want to fleece a team, or maybe you do. You want to get fair value. But with the way the Kraken are playing, is there anyone outside of Joey Daccord and maybe a sprinkle of other players that are giving you enough consistently to make them a part of a really good trade package? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. There's already been a lot of movement in the NHL, not much from the Kraken. And so that conservative approach that we heard Elliot Friedman talk about with respect to Ron Francis, is that something that's going to hurt the team? He, rebuked, he dismissed a lot of the rumors or the reporting, especially about him not wanting Dan Bylsma. But other than that, I feel like it's all quiet on the Kraken front. And I do think that plays a role, especially when you're trying to attract free agents. Oh, this team. We have a lot of work to do. And it gets started at home. Here's the schedule. The Seattle Kraken will take on the LA Kings, Buffalo, Washington, and Pittsburgh in the next 4-game homestand before heading out to Edmonton and immediately turning the plane back around to come back to CBA to take on Anaheim. And then they close with the San Jose Sharks. So, not getting this team against Winnipeg or not getting a win or a point in this team against Winnipeg, especially looking at what's coming down the pike, you can look at it a few ways. I'll give you 2. On the one hand, hey, you hung with the best team in the league. On the other, you hung with the best team in the league and you've lost to multiple bottom 5 teams. So what's going on? Playing up to your opponent. I don't like that the Seattle Kraken tend to, it's not just that they play up. I mean, I'd prefer you just play how you play, but okay, you play up. But what is hurtful is that, do I want to say they sometimes play down? They play lethargic. They get surprised that there are actually good teams in the NHL. Like, this is the big leagues, bruh. Get it together. Oh, good, but not good enough. I'm glad Matty Beniers is getting more touches. Remember, Jessica Campbell told me 2025 is the year of Beniers, and that's starting to happen. The chemistry with Capo Caco and Jaden Schwartz, through the roof. So I like it. But there's a lot of work to do. I wish I could say, I feel content. I'm okay with this loss. I'm not okay with it. There were good things, I can admit that, but I'm not okay with this loss. And a majority of that is because the Seattle Kraken have not taken care of business against teams they're quote unquote supposed to beat or whatever the case is. So, there's that. That'll do it for our show, folks. Again, Women's Hockey Report. We're going to talk about goaltending, do a deep dive into some goaltenders in the PWHL. And then, Denver. Denver's showing up and showing out. We'll also give you 3 stars of the game and our game to watch in the coming week's slate of games. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. Hold fast. Stay true. And let's go Kraken. I want to wear the Uma hat again. Let me wear the Uma hat again. All right. I'll catch you on the next episode. Peace out, everybody.